Where are we going? North.
Welcome to Dungeons and Dragons.
Therapeutic benefit in role-playing games.
Welcome to Dungeons and Dragons.
Oh yeah, baby. Your presence requested in exchange for treasures.
Are we talking one treasure each?
Count that.
During our interview with Nurse Jen, we were discussing the struggles of navigating the medical field with little information and during moments of fear. She described the means of getting through that and continuing to face it each day was to rely on each other. It's the support system of the other nurses, the other physicians. To me, it's very cool and interesting that in episode 4 of our gameplay, we reached that same conclusion. Jonas lectured Tony that unity was essential. This is an example of the mechanical strength of MASHED, where it's accurately simulating reality.
Yeah, Tony plays this misanthropic hot sauce.
Hot sauce.
Yeah, Tony plays some hot sauce. Yeah, Tony plays this misanthropic hotshot surgeon, but attempting to be an island leads things to going wrong. Could he have succeeded by himself? Sure. Could he have failed with the group? Well, absolutely. There's fallout, though, for this behavior. The other surgeons lose focus and get upset. We start losing precious time. We're paving the way for trauma not only for the patients, but surgeons as well.
Trauma is today's focus. So what exactly is trauma? When using the word within the context of psychology, we define it as an emotional response to a terrible event such as a natural disaster, an accident, or serious bodily harm. Directly following an event like this, shock and denial are typical. Longer-term effects could be flashbacks, sudden strong emotions, even physical reactions like migraines or nausea. Why are these things happening, though? Our brains are constantly seeking to optimize an efficiency, by which I mean take the easiest paths possible. They're also trying to protect us from harm. You know what's a good way to stop us from burning ourselves? Intense pain from high heat and subsequent alarms when near it in the future.
That makes sense. That makes a lot of sense. Now, you mentioned denial after a traumatic event. Wouldn't denying the intense pain be counterproductive?
Our brains don't care about processing complex thought in the moment. Instead, it begins preparing the body for quick, mindless action in order to survive. This is what's commonly known as fight or flight response. Shock itself is insufficient blood flow, which in turn means lack of oxygen.
Okay, I see. In the presence of fear stimuli, our brain tells us to rapidly send blood to the muscles so they may react. We commonly hyperventilate to expedite this process, but that can lead to dizziness. Now, you also mentioned the brain optimizing. What does that have to do with trauma?
Our brains want to use less energy, so the pathways for information are simplified. Think about our behavioral patterns. How do you prepare in the morning? How do you take a shower, eat breakfast, brush your teeth, put your clothes on? I'm going to bet it's all very similar. It's easier for our brains to follow these patterns, so we do it without even thinking. Here's a brain health exercise. Try changing up your routine. Put your clothes on in a different order. Maybe wear a bold color. Shift up the things I mentioned. It might feel uncomfortable or bizarre. That's because your brain has to change or create new pathways.
So, like, if I did something drastic, like, shave the beard off, I'd be creating new neurons?
Yes. Your brain has to go to work to change the self-image on record.
Okay, I'm beginning to understand why it takes effort to do that and why if Tony painted my face in my sleep, I'd be a little startled looking in the mirror in the morning. My face wouldn't line up with the picture in my mind. Now, what does all of this efficiency have to do with trauma, though?
Remember in our Pugmire wrap-up how we discussed a hypothetical fear of geckos?
You mean your irrational panic response to Geico commercials?
Think of how... Sorry. This is about trauma. Think of how powerful our minds are, that I convinced myself geckos were dangerous to me for no real reason. Now imagine an actual traumatic event, like war, gunshots, explosions. Well, you get the picture. You had concrete sounds, smells, and sights to take in. Now remember how I mentioned our bodies preventing us from burning ourselves? All of these intense sensory experiences are stored in easily accessible pathways for our brain. This is harmful! At least that's what I imagine our bodies would scream. Instead, they rapidly prepare us to take action and possibly bring those memories to the forefront as a reminder to avoid another traumatic event.
If bodies were to scream, do you think they'd scream in English or some other random bodily language?
Probably in a way you'd understand it.
Okay. These are the things that goes through my brain. Now, I get what you're putting down, but so candle smoke or a car engine backfiring or tasting the same food that you ate, there could all follow these easy pathways to fear because they're similar to your senses surrounding that trauma.
Exactly. And to attempt to move past it, people would have to work hard to essentially rewire their brains. This is why role-playing games like MASHED can be helpful. You can simulate events that are traumatic, but from a safe space. You have people around you who can help support you. You can go through scenarios, though, through the eyes of someone different and gain new insights.
What would a person look like who overcame a traumatic event? Like, what skills or techniques did they execute to move forward? It reminds me of a vaccine. Like, you have this little piece of the trauma in the game, and your mind is synthesizing a way to battle it.
Plus, you have other players to also help build perspective. It can be as simple as recognizing a reminder, calling an assigned buddy, and breathing together on the phone. I'm not diminishing the severity of trauma, but want to point out the first skills to mitigating it could be really accessible.
In our playthrough, John's clown role suddenly seems far more important. He gave people hope, distraction, and even joy. You know, it reminds me of The Office when Michael Scott was leading the murder mystery game. Everybody was worried about losing their jobs right before Saber took over. At the time, Jim was the co-manager, and he thought the game meant that Michael didn't care. Michael screamed at him in private that they needed the stupid game just to distract the employees.
I do declare.
I do declare.
Well, anyway, that's our MASH wrap-up. We hope that it can help you through fun or safe space. The next time you play, try keeping in mind you could be simulating real experiences of those in the military or in the medical field. Perhaps gain some perspective.
And a big thank you to Mark Plemons, Nurse Jen, our cast, and of course, you. Now, don't forget to like and subscribe. Check us out on Facebook, Twitter, and here on YouTube at Deech Time. We'll catch you in the next one, folks.